Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the Sabbath and for all your blessings. Thank you for bringing us here safely. I pray that you'll be in our midst as we study your word. I pray that you'll give me the words to say and that there will be lots of participation. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we are studying this week chapter 6 of Prophets and Kings. I keep wanting to say patriarchs and prophets. Prophets and Kings. All right, so this chapter was about the rending of the kingdom and when the tribes decide to split. But what was your guys' favorite, or what stood out to you guys in the lesson this week? Go ahead, Daniel.
Anyway, I'm thankful. What on earth? What stood out to me in this chapter was when it said that even though the kingdom was to be rent, Rehoboam could have handled the situation well, so that everything would have been, what was the exact words that she used? She said he could have handled it wisely, something to that effect. But instead, he did the most egregious thing he could have done in the situation, and that caused the split to be much more contentious than it needed to be.
Do you have your hand up, Franklin? Go ahead.
Well, there's different things, but one of them is, one lesson is be careful who you represent because you might be stoned to death. So that was the ambassador of peace. He was trying to talk to people, and next thing you know, he couldn't talk anymore. And so, I mean, but he went to represent a kingdom where Rehoboam had made a lot of mistakes. And I mean, he didn't show that he actually cared for people, and so then it was not the best kingdom to try to represent.
Sure. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Solomon, it just showed we know Solomon's history of marrying a lot of different wives. And so it was saying in the lesson that he didn't prepare the mind of Rehoboam for it to be his successor. And Rehoboam was raised by an Ammonitess wife, and she had a vacillating character, and it showed with Rehoboam. That's what it said. That she had a strong molding influence over his mind, and that's what we ended up seeing happening to Rehoboam later.
What does vacillating mean? Oh, okay.
Sometimes he would try to do good and it would work for one.
Okay. Go ahead, Brother Noah.
You just be careful who you take counsel from, because he talked with the older men who give him wise counsel, and then he decided he didn't like that. He wanted to hear from his younger friends. So.
Yes, I noticed that. I highlighted that part. Go ahead, Danielle.
I was just going to say vacillating. If you see like a heartbeat on a monitor, that's vacillating, that kind of up and down.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yes. All those very good. Did anyone else have anything? I don't think so. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to add to Brother Norwood, be careful who your friends are, because clearly his friends didn't have good advice at all.
Sure.
And the older people, people have wisdom with age, so, and they saw what Solomon did. They knew what had happened, so they knew the direction that if he went a certain direction, it would not go well. That's one thing. And then also, when the prophet of Ahijah came to Jeroboam, there was a section, I don't think it was in the lesson in Prophets and Kings, but in the Bible, there's a section that says, and unto his son will I give one tribe, that David, my servant, may have a light alway before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name there. And I will take thee, talking to Jeroboam, and thou shalt reign according to all thy soul desireth, and shalt be king over Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and wilt walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. So I just found it interesting that even, obviously there's the prophecy that he's going to take the rest of most of Israel, right? But he still also has the opportunity to follow and allow God to work through him in a good way, which he didn't go that way, but he could have. Sadly,
Yes.
he should have.
Yeah. Yes, there's always the opportunity to do right. All right, so starting from kind of the beginning, I guess. Solomon, like my mother said, did not prepare the mind of Rehoboam, his successor, like how David prepared him, which I thought was interesting. Well, a lot of it made sense because we see what Solomon's history was and his family life. But also at the end of his life, when he turned back to God, he wrote all these proverbs and was teaching people in wisdom. And I was a little bit surprised that that he didn't do any of that for his son, who was going to take over the kingdom. Go ahead, Daniel. Because I was like,
I'm not sure that he didn't. I just think he did it too late. His son was already an adult by the time he died, and he would have lived for a bit of time in Solomon's issues. And so by the time Solomon probably wanted to change, it was too late.
okay, go ahead, Franklin.
Like Manasseh.
Oh, sorry, wait. Did you leave? I didn't realize he was.
Well, I think also with looking at Rehoboam, we have to talk about his mother too. It says, Rehoboam had received from his mother, an Ammonitess, the stamp of a vacillating character. So he got that from his mom. So Solomon married an idolatrous woman, and so he got an idolatrous son. But obviously, Rehoboam was learning stuff from Solomon too, with trying to excel him in taxes and other stuff like that.
Yes. Well, I'm just saying, at the end of Solomon's life, he wrote Ecclesiastes and Proverbs. Well, in the last chapter, it talked about how after he came back to God, he put a lot of things in Proverbs to teach people. So I just assumed that was the book of Proverbs. But he wrote Ecclesiastes and Proverbs and tried to teach the youth and everything. And maybe it was too late for Rehoboam, but maybe he did teach Rehoboam some, but then not enough for it to be recorded. But it's not recorded that he did. It said that he he had never been able to exert a strong molding influence for good over the mind of his son. So maybe that's because in his younger years he wasn't trying. I don't know. But go ahead, Mother.
Well, that same paragraph, it goes on, it says, regarding Rehoboam, It says, but he was not steadfast, and at last he yielded to the influences for evil that had surrounded him from infancy. In the mistakes of his life, Rehoboam's life, and in his final apostasy is revealed the fearful result of Solomon's union with idolatrous women. So
Yeah.
it was so ingrained.
That's true. That's why it's so important who you surround your children with and how you raise your children, because like we see in the story of Samuel and in Proverbs and in this story, that the training that you pour into your child when they're young is what's gonna come out when they're old. Not necessarily, not that there can't be change, or what's the word? Yeah, that's not the word I was thinking of. But not that there can't be change or conversion, but typically this is the line. Go ahead, Daniel.
And he wasn't so far gone that he didn't regard the judgments of God, as we see later on in the chapter. And so he did try half-heartedly to follow the God of his father. He just also tried half-heartedly to follow the God of his mother.
Go ahead, Brother Noah, and then Franklin.
I was just going to say that Solomon, as far as him having influence over his sons, when he had 700 wives, they're all different places. So it's not like he's got one household and they're just right there.
That's true.
So
That is also true. Go ahead.
And then one thing with Rehoboam is he forgot. I believe it was a king of Egypt was, overtaking them, and then that was finished, and then he forgot. So that's something that can happen with us too. God can deliver us from something, we forget, and then we can have a vacillating character and serve God sometimes, then go into idolatry.
Very true. Yeah. Very sad. Okay, so moving down, Josh, I think it was Josh or Brother Noah, brought out the fact that he got counsel from older people and then he wasn't satisfied with it, so then he went to his friends to give him the counsel that he wanted to hear, which I thought was really funny because I was like, he already knew what counsel his friends were going to give him. Like, he was friends with them. He kind of knew where they stood on the matter. And so because he wasn't satisfied with the counsel, he just went to people who were already going to tell him what he already wanted to know, which that's not even getting counsel. That's just getting someone to agree with you. That's just having a cheerleading team, not counsel. But I did highlight this part because it makes sense, well, to a certain degree, for people to go to their friends to be like, should I do this or shouldn't I, even though they kind of already know where their friends stand on the matter, because those are the people you associate with, and you care about their opinions to a certain degree. But if you're really trying to follow God and make sure you lead in a right way rather than just the way that you feel like you want to be led, then it's important to go to right counsel and like those of the older generation, those who have lived longer than you, the Word of God. Go ahead, Daniel.
I think it's interesting. David's counselors, aside from Ahithophel, were people of his generation. And Solomon's counselors were people of his generation as well. But Rehoboam's counselors were people of Solomon's generation. And then he went to his friends. So it was interesting that for the first two, there were wise and converted young people at the time that those people were kings. Those first two were kings. But at this time, because of the nonsense that Solomon did during his reign, the young people were no longer converted. And so that was an issue.
True. Yeah, and like Solomon, his father, said, in the multitude of counselors there's wisdom, but I guess not every, not if they're unconverted. So his friends suggested that he becomes harsher than his father and taxes the people more than his father, which honestly didn't really make sense to me, but and just be worse. And so he's like, yeah, my father, where is it? He answered the people roughly saying, my father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father also chastised you with whips, I will chastise you with scorpions. And I was like, why are you evil? What is the point of that? I don't know what he was hoping to accomplish from that other than making the people hate him more than his father. But I thought that was insane. Anyway, but it says, had Rehoboam and inexperienced inexperienced counselors understood the divine will concerning Israel, they would have listened to the request of the people for decided reforms in the administration of the government. But in the hour of opportunity that came to them during the meeting in Shechem, they failed to reason from cause to effect, and thus forever weakened their influence over a large number of the people. Their expressed determination to perpetuate and add to the oppression introduced during Solomon's reign was in direct conflict with God's plan for Israel, and gave the people ample occasion to doubt the sincerity of their motives. In this unwise and unfeeling attempt to exercise power, the king and his chosen counselors revealed the pride of position and authority. So I'm sitting here like reading this, and I'm like, I don't understand what he was thinking. But honestly, he wasn't. He really wasn't reasoning from cause to effect. He just decided that this is what he was going to do and didn't reason through how this was going to affect life for literally everybody involved. Go ahead, Daniel.
I think one, he was looking at the kingdoms around him, but second, he felt like he was king, and he felt like he was an absolute monarch. And so the people asking him to reduce the burden that his father had placed on them felt to him like rebellion. Similar to when Pharaoh told the Israelites when they asked for time off to go worship God on Sabbath, ye are idle, so I'm going to make your work harder. It was that similar idea. If you want something to change, you're the problem because I'm the ruler. And so that's how that worked.
Okay. Go ahead, Franklin.
His legs thawed a little bit after the ambassador of peace was killed.
Yeah. That's true. Okay. Going down. So then he so God steps in and he's not going to allow Rehoboam to do everything he wants to. And then I'm trying to see what the backstory of what I highlighted here was, because I know I want to bring it out, but I need context. So hold on. The people answered the key. Okay, so I think, so then the tribes split here, I think. Anyway, point is, the part that I wanted to bring up was, it says, the breach created by the rash speech of Rehoboam proved irreparable. And I highlighted that to bring it out because it's talking about speech or his rash speech. And I thought this was so important to bring up because this is why it's so important to, I guess, like, think before you talk and all these things, because his speech, which was said in a moment, was completely irreparable. Like, there was nothing that could change it, and that's what's so important, because, like, the Bible says the life and death are in the power of the tongue. And so anytime I see something come up with speech, because, I don't know, I kind of cling on to these things. There's certain topics in the Bible that I just love, and speech is one of them. So, oh, my mind just went blank. Sorry, go ahead, Father.
Well, what I understood from it was basically, you have this young guy, Rehoboam, who didn't know what to do. He didn't really ask for wisdom from God like how Solomon did. He went out there on his own accord. He decided the wisdom from the older is not of any benefit in his generation. So he went to the people of his generation, the young, and they pretty much lifted him up, basically, and said, yeah, get all you can. Get all you can. Don't let anybody run over you. Get all you can. So he said, wow, that sounds like a great deal. I'll be even greater than my father. And from what he understood of what his father did was become more harsh than the king before. So he became more harsh, and that didn't go well.
Sure. Go ahead, Franklin.
Well, now, Rehoboam did say, give me 3 days. So he didn't just come out and tell people. He waited. He actually talked to 2 different groups of people. Then he spoke. So wouldn't that be, is that still speaking in the moment, or is that taking his time with his words?
It's a good question. I mean, it's still considered rash, but technically he did wait, but also not enough. Because it's not, okay, thinking before you speak is not just pausing before you speak. While that's part of it, like, especially for something like this, he should have gone to God and prayed and taken the 3 days to, ask God what the right course of action was, rather than just wait 3 days just because he wanted to talk to his friends.
Well, that reminds me of Esther. She had 3 days too, but she asked people to fast with her, and she took that time. She was very tactful about what she did. She didn't even go and tell the king exactly. She had the banquet 2 times before she said something about the issue, but she consulted God, where he just wanted to speak foolishly, and he should have applied the wise fool principle and just been quiet.
Exactly. That's my point. Yes, exactly. Go ahead, Miss Andrea.
Well, I was going to say, can you blame him? Because this is what he grew up seeing his father, Solomon, dealt with the people very wickedly. And so it's just a lesson for us, as well as the way we raise our children and the things we do in the home, how it does affect them as they grow and become adults. So he was just following basically in his father's footsteps, basically. You know what I mean? He did not have that relationship with God that he was supposed to have with him personally. So, so he was, the way he was raised, I mean, he grew up with that whole idea of worshiping other idols and just all the stuff that he did, to the wicked things that he continued doing to the people. It's what he grew up seeing, you know, in the home.
Yeah, true. All right. Okay. Moving down. Let me see. Okay. Put the pen up. 1 second. Okay. So, because of Solomon, basically all of this comes back to Rehoboam's father. While he obviously had the opportunity to make a change, because there were good kings in Israel even after this. So, if there were able to be good kings after this, then he had the opportunity to be a good king as well. But at the same time, a lot of it comes back to Solomon losing his way with God, and all the apostasy that he did and everything. But then it says that all okay. Then it says that like all Israel, apostatized and everything. In page 94, paragraph 1, it says, "How sad, how filled with significance the words, and all Israel with him. The people whom God had chosen to stand as a light to the surrounding nations were turning from their source of strength and seeking to become like the nations about them. As with Solomon, so with Rehoboam. The influence of wrong example led many astray, and as with them, so to a greater or lesser degree is it today, with everyone who gives himself up to work evil. The influence of wrongdoing is not confined to the doer. No man liveth unto himself, none perish alone in their iniquity. Every life is a light that brightens and cheers the pathway of others, or a dark and desolating influence that tends toward despair and ruin. We lead others either upward to happiness and immortal life, or downward to sorrow and eternal death. And if by our deeds we strengthen or force into activity the evil powers of those around us, we share their sin." And this is very powerful because, like I said last week, influence is always my thing. Like, it's the one thing I always cling on to with these lessons, because it's so true that, like, we don't live onto ourselves. We're not an island. Even if we try to be an island, we're still gonna have influence over somebody, and we can't help that. All we can do is affect that. We can have an influence for good or evil, but we can't not have an influence. Like, it's impossible to not have an influence on someone. But you get to choose if that influence is going to be good or not. And this influence was evil. And how sad it is that all Israel was influenced in such an evil direction and to participate in the iniquity and everything, when it could have been a good influence. He could have had a good influence over Israel, and all Israel could have served the Lord, and the Bible would have been like, and all Israel stayed with God, and they lived happily ever after. Like, I don't know. But how, like, it's so sad to think about that. And so it's so important to realize and to understand the amount of influence we have on other people, or the impact of our lives, even if we don't care to, even if we're not trying to do something bad, as long as we're not doing something good, it might have an evil influence on somebody. And that's frightening to me. Go ahead, Daniel.
I was going back to when you said that they were good kings after Rehoboam, so he could have changed. He did change for like a few years. There was some time. There was some time when he was a good king after the king of Egypt, which would have been his father's father-in-law, or maybe brother-in-law, came and took part of his kingdom. And after that, he didn't reject the judgments of God. He wasn't that foolish. So he came back to God for a bit. And then coming back to God, prosperity came back to his people.
Mm-hmm.
And then he forgot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but it's not enough to come back to God for a little bit to be considered a good king. Like, the influence of all his bad deeds were still there.
I don't know what in the world y'all talking about.
Talking about Rehoboam.
I know, but I don't know what you're talking about. But I did just hear you say something, and the thought occurred to me. Is there such a thing as influence neutral? But you just said. You didn't say that? What I heard was, even if you're not, okay, so because I don't know what was going on. Even if, this is what I heard, even if you're not putting off a bad influence, or you're not necessarily doing something, you're not trying to do something bad, right? Or you're saying you're not trying, but you could not be trying and doing something bad, but you wasn't trying. Oh, okay. See, I heard it wrong. Thank you for the correction. Because I was thinking, is there such a thing as just being neutral? I'm just neutrally going through this life. Some people behave like that. They're just on this kind of, I don't do this, but I don't do that. And I don't do that, but I don't do this. And I'm just neutral. I'm just minding my business, being a homeless person or whatever, right? You think they have no impact, but they do, right? You see the man on the corner there of the bank, and he just, there's some sort of impact being made. And maybe somebody said, but he makes homelessness look so glorious, so glamorous. Maybe I'll take that up as a profession, rather. No? You don't think so? There's something. You would tend to think, well, he's invisible.
But he's related to people, and they know him. Or
what if he's here? Everybody he knows is dead. He's not even from here. He just walked here. He got here. He said, "This is a great corner. I'm gonna just stand up and smile because I do pretty well."
I'm sure he's met people. People have met him. He doesn't live by himself. In this world, there's people around, so you will be exerting an influence on somebody, because you're not on a deserted island by yourself.
Right.
And even if you were, I guess you wouldn't have an influence over
on the animals.
Yeah, I don't know, but you're not living on a deserted island by yourself. So even if you're, basically what I was saying was, even if you're trying to be neutral, you can't be neutral. You're always going to be exerting either an influence for good or bad. And so if you're trying to be neutral and not necessarily exerting an influence for good, then you by default are exerting an influence for bad. So
look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Like I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to participate. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm not going to, I'm not going to ruffle any feathers. I'm just going to come and be invisible. And do what? No, not drinking a bar. I'm not going to do anything. Have you ever made that choice? Have you ever gotten to a place because of certain circumstances where you say, you know what? Every time I say something, it's a problem. Anytime I go somewhere, somebody's unnerved. Anytime I wear this particular color, it brings all this attention. I'm just going to go here, put on my shades, and just behave very small. And nobody will see me, and there won't be a problem.
But people will still see you.
The devil sees you.
Exactly. And someone's going to take note, and someone's going to be influenced by
your
actions.
lack.
Exactly. Or your lack thereof, yeah. Go ahead.
And just a reminder, if this was 2020, this what we're doing right now, just breathing, would have been offensive to people. But I don't see a lot of people with masks on. I'm just saying. But go to Georgia? Are you serious? Are you serious? Whoa. Okay. I don't go a lot of places apparently. I just stay in my corner. I forgot my point. I had a point to say. Oh, no, I got it. Okay, going back to Vaseline, I think that goes with influence because if we are worried about so much of what people are concerned about, then that's one thing that can help us to be vacillating. But the thing that gives the strength of character is really having that connection with God that allows there to be a steady, you to be steady, and that's important for leadership, which Rehoboam did not show characteristics of a leader. He showed the characteristics of like a despot, which I don't think is a good style of leadership.
Yeah, it's not. Yes, go ahead, Daniel.
As I was reading this chapter, there were two questions that came to me. One, do we know what tribe Jeroboam was from? And second, do we know that Solomon picked the proper king? Because we know Solomon was picked by God. But do we know that Rehoboam was? I mean, Solomon had plenty sons.
True.
He even had some by the Egyptian princess that became converted. So he had sons from a converted mother.
I don't know. Because, like, it's not mentioned that he was picked by God, but it's also not mentioned that, like, this is why God didn't pick him because X, Y, and Z. Like, it's not specific. At least I didn't see it. I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see that it specifically said God didn't pick him because of this, or because God didn't pick him this and that. I don't know.
Within a monarchy, there's that whole firstborn lineage thing, right? And then the second and third, and then it could skip whoever should have been if you have the first one has children, da. Yeah, right? So since David, there was the influence of the nations around and how they did things. And some things that should not have taken hold, they did. And what's so wrong with that, right? Because the firstborn in the patriarchal system was supposed to be the one with the blessing, with the covenant, with the birthright, all of that goodness, right? So that kind of lines up. That's close enough. That's kind of what we used to did, right? And so the firstborn. But what if the firstborn is no good? And what if the secondborn and third and fourth? I don't know how many 11 children he had, okay? But it would appear to me there was nothing to pick from. Nothing. It said in, I don't know if it was in Prophets and Kings, I think. Either the last part of Patriarchs and Prophets, or the beginning part of Prophets and Kings, which we're still in the beginning, right? It said that the wives of Solomon taught the children it's like the rites or the rituals of the heathen. Let that soak in. And remember, at the time when we were discussing that, we were saying, or it came to light, it came to the surface, that he was doing all kinds of things. He was doing the most. He would have been in the Epstein files. He was the Epstein files. It would have been the Solomon files. Okay? So then you have these women that are teaching the ways of the heathen, and the heathen did everything, anything, right? Nothing for good. So I would think that none of them, there was nothing to choose, and still yet, God says, okay, well, Jeroboam, and he'll get this piece. But that's many of the times when we see God saying or making a decision regarding something, was not because he's speaking from the best of the lot. He's just doing what he can.
Yeah.
Not that God is thwarted in any which way, but you know what I'm saying? Because he is God, and he kind of already knows, and he's so good. He gave Jeroboam a chance to be better than what he was. Well, two of them bad, okay? I mean, look, their name is so close and stuff. What was that about? Huh? Rehoboam, Jeroboam. What was that? But anyway, not mind my business. But the point being, God gave opportunity. I think Rehoboam was more about firstborn lineage something. I don't know if he was a firstborn. Somebody can later correct. But let's say it was more about that, right? So he stepped into that space. And Jeroboam was more about God saying, well, this is going to happen, so you go ahead. I'm going to give you a chance. And then you just botched it anyway. But they came from terrible parenting. The example of their father was horrible, and that their mothers were teaching them. The father had maybe a mix. He had mixed drinks. They had straight drinks. Straight vodka, no mix. You know? So,
Yeah, good point. Go ahead, Mother.
So just in answer to Daniel's question, it says in 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 26, it says Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and Ephrathite. I'm assuming. It just says Ephrathite. What does Ephrathite mean? Ephrathite? Jeroboam was an Ephrathite. Does that mean he was from Ephraim, the tribe? He was asking. But anyway, in regards to Rehoboam, the spirit of prophecy comment under for chapter 11, verses 9 through 12, it says that Rehoboam, the son whom Solomon chose to be his successor. So Solomon did choose him. And yeah, he was from the Ammonite. The same, probably didn't have much to choose from. But in answer to your question specifically, yes, he was chosen by Solomon.
Yeah, okay. I had a thought during all this, and then I forgot it. Had something to do about, oh man, it's about influence, I think. I don't remember. Alright, well anyway, moving on. So God comes, and God doesn't come, but the hand of affliction comes, and then it was removed, and the nation was prospering, and then everyone forgot about their fears and just went right back into idolatry. And one of them was King Rehoboam. He went right back into idolatry. And it says that, Israel went into idolatry, and among these was King Rehoboam. If King Rehoboam didn't go back into idolatry, would Israel have been able to still go into idolatry? Right? So he led Israel back into idolatry. He wasn't just going along with the rest of Israel. Because the way it was written says that, but as the hand of affliction was removed, and the nation prospered once more, many forgot their fears and turned again to idolatry. Among these was King Rehoboam himself. So it's written in a way that's all these people are going, and Rehoboam went as well. But if he hadn't gone, the rest of them would not have been able to. Or maybe they would have been secret, I don't know. But if he was upholding from the throne the principles of God, they wouldn't have, yeah, his influence would have been good, but they wouldn't have been able to go back into idolatry. So I thought that was just interesting the way it was written, as if like he just went along with the crowd rather than leading them himself. But anyway, even though he was humbled through the calamity that had happened to him, it says he failed to make this experience a decisive turning point in his life. Forgetting the lesson that God had endeavored to teach him, he relapsed into the sins that had brought judgments on the nation. After a few inglorious years, during which the king did evil because he prepared not his heart to seek the Lord, Rehoboam slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. And so on. And so after all this, he came back to God, right? And then the calamity was lifted, and it didn't make any impact on him, which I think is the saddest part, because this was supposed to work in the same way that it did for Solomon, where Solomon came back to God after he saw the judgments and realized God didn't give up on him, and he turned back to God and everything. And the same thing was supposed to happen with Rehoboam, but that didn't happen. As soon as the judgments were lifted, Rehoboam just went back into the way that he was, and that is so sad. Go ahead, Daniel.
Another thing, as I was reading this chapter, I realized Solomon married the Egyptian princess in order to create an alliance between Israel and Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And Egypt was the one that took half of his kingdom after he dies. So his alliance didn't work at all. It wasn't even just a failed alliance. It just didn't work. And
Maybe it was only as long as he lived.
well, God had already told him that he would have peace in his borders as long as he lived. So that wasn't... And yeah, so the whole thing is interesting to me.
Yes, that's true. I also think it's wild that he went to make an alliance with Egypt when Egypt was the ones that had enslaved his forefathers. I was like, why did you do? What was that about? But anyway, pardon? Sure, but still, like, history. Did you not read it? This is why history is very important, because okay.
Iraq, not the Rock. I know, it sounded like you were saying the Rock. Yeah, so not only, okay, so even if you forgot about that they enslaved the people, what about the fact, and Daniel, no, not forget that, but Daniel's talking about they were the greatest superpower, but this was the same superpower that God, like,
No, exactly.
like the 10 plagues, do we remember? I mean, their God was super powerful compared to any superpower that was out there, so that didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah,
To go form an alliance with somebody who your God fought for you against this power.
This person was.
And you're thinking you go into a lesser thing and you have the greater God, you have God on your side and you're going to this lesser thing, like that doesn't make sense. But that's just how his mind was already. When we're not following God, we do foolishly, not knowing that we're not following God.
Yeah, I thought that, especially that alliance. Like, there's other ones too. Like, when another one is when David went to the Philistines. That I also was like, but you just killed. Do you not remember? This was like a couple years ago. Like, but this one, this one's not just a couple years ago, but still the history, like you had to have known these. These were made, the entire account was made into songs. Like they sing about about this, and just to go farm and aligns with the Egyptians, that made no sense to me. But go ahead.
They forgot the songs. I'm gonna start trouble, because that's just
In the
my
last 4
specialty.
minutes.
You only have nobody has to answer, but we are so amazed many times at the history of the people of God, which we are a part of it. We parallel. We're just modern day Israel, just as stupid and just as slow to come around to doing the right things. So the analogies were being made. It's just like this being like that, and them going to them, and da-da-da-da, like the Seventh-day Adventist Church having a union with the UN. Hello. And aren't we doing? Oh no, we're not under the, we're just taking pictures. We have a full seat at the table of some committee that makes decisions. We have totally changed our like if we had an aim, a motto, a creed, whatever, we have totally changed that. We've changed it at least 3 or 4 times within their books to where now here's the difference. Okay, they've done that as leaders. The majority of the church does not know that. But yet you look at the church and you don't see them holding on to the lines of the past. You see the church just going
Here and there and everywhere.
That's putting it very nicely and Pollyanna-ish, but we're not better, right? So the people are in idolatry and worshiping other gods, right? And the leadership is doing things in secret that has given us over to idolatry and worshiping other gods. The people don't know it, but the effect is still there, right? And so when we look at the past, we need to be looking at ourselves, because there go I. What am I doing to ensure that I'm not following the Rehoboams and the Jeroboams of today's church? Right here local, we're good, we don't do anything. Matter of fact, we don't have an influence. We're so small, nobody takes note,
No, please.
right? And so what are we doing? Or the bigger Jeroboams or Rehoboams, at the higher echelons of the church. We need to look at that and consider that if we don't cast that down, if we don't make a stand against, even though we don't have a voice or a vote to change what they're doing in regards to the UN, which we do, we can understand these things, say they are evil, pray and ask the Lord that we're not caught up in that, whatever, because there are so many things that are done and that we do or that we don't do that we used to do. Do we even know who we are? And so that happened with them. There's so many things that were done and not done that was like, well, that's what we've always done. We've always XYZ. We never LMNOP. To the point where people don't know what then is truth, what then is right. And we don't want to end up like that. We need to question almost everything. And even if you question things you shouldn't question, if the things are right and your heart is honest, you'll come around to thus saith the Lord. But if it's thus saith the pastor or the head deacon or the whomever, that's not going to work. Put not, the very Solomon, right? No. Put not your trust in princes right. Because they're going to what? Fail you. And what did they do all the time? Kept putting their trust.
Princes and kings. It's a good point. Okay, Daniel will be the last. Yeah. Okay, Kevin will be the last.
I didn't mean to be that. No, I had a question. Is it possible to worship idols without a statue, without,
Yes.
like, So do you think that Solomon idolized those women before it turned to the statues and all those things? Do you think that that was what led him into idolatry?
Yeah, to a certain degree, yeah. It was definitely a stepping stone, because in order to be led that way into idolatry, you had to put them above God at some point. So
Yeah, but also the wives were of different nations. They
yeah,
worship
yeah.
all those gods, so definitely, yes.
Yes. Pardon?
He also worshipped extravagance and display.
Yes, he did. Because he put all of that above God. Anything you put above God in any way is an idol. It could be like, sorry. Oh, it could be the mic. I don't see how you would put this above God, but you could. It could be anything. It could be a game. It could be a relationship. It could be a person. It could be literally anything that you put. As long as you put it above God, it's an idol. And then if you just keep going in that direction, yeah, you'll end up like Solomon. And with that, let's close with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for being here. And thank you that the Sabbath School went well. I pray that you'll continue to be in our midst as we continue throughout the divine hour, and that you will help us to keep the Sabbath holy. I pray in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so the schedule is posted on the bulletin board. The memory verses are not yet, so come back Wednesday to prayer meeting. Otherwise, you'll just have to wait till next week.
As you come, please consider that you are sitting before the God of the universe. Breathe a silent prayer as you quietly wait for service to begin.